I've been thinking a lot about where FanDuel has the over-under win total for the Aggies, and I don't think they got it right.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about the baseball team. They've got this series coming up against Georgia. I've got a strategy that I think maybe could give you a chance to get that automatic bid from the SEC championship, or SEC tournament, if you find a way to make a run there. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. Going to talk about my thoughts on the offensive line. I've seen some folks down on the offensive line, and I see where they're coming from, and I want to talk about this. But I want to get things started talking about the FanDuel over-under win total line. I know this number's been out for a while, and I've just sat and contemplated and thought long and hard about it. And the more that I look at it, the more that I look at this total, I don't think that they got it right. And the reason I believe that to be true is, and those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know that I've been very candid in saying I believe that this team, I don't know if I'm buying that they're going to get over that hump and make it to an SEC championship, a college football playoff type of appearance, but I do believe that they're going to win 8 football games. I have been very open saying I believe that this Texas A&M team is going to go 8-4. That's where I sit right now. I think it's very realistic. And I mean, when you run through the schedule, it's just really hard to find 5 losses. And the reason I say that, I'll tell you this right now with confidence. Between these 4 games, Notre Dame, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, and Texas, those are all of your big-time road games. The Aggies are going to win at least 2 of those games. I feel very confident about. I like Taylor Green, think he's a good quarterback. The Aggies should go and beat Arkansas in Fayetteville. I feel very good about that. I think that they beat Missouri. I've heard good things about Missouri, but I don't know. I think the Aggies go win this game. I think that they're going to go win this game on the road. Then those 3 games of LSU, Notre Dame, and Texas, I mean, it's obviously hard. Is there a world where they win one of them? Sure, but it's not going to be easy. So let's just pretend between your road games, right? Your road games, you go 2-3 on the road. So that's just your road games. And then, of course, we're going to add UTSA, Utah State, Mississippi State, and Samford in as 4 wins. So you're 4-0 in those games. So the games that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the games that then will make or break what happens, whether it's 8-4, 7-5, 9-3, are USC, Auburn, and Florida. Those 3 games, if you just win, if you go 1-2 in those games, 4, 5, or 2-1 in those games, which I think that you will. If you go 2-1 in those games at home, you win 8 football games. So, I mean, you go 4-0 in those games, you should easily win against, Samford and all those schools. You just go 2-3 in your road games, which I do think is very realistic, and you go 2-1 against South Carolina, Auburn, and Florida. And I think that is honestly, that gives you 8-4 right there. I don't see a combination for this Texas A&M team that does not end with at least 8 wins. I mean, when you take a look, these different combinations is what I'm getting at. It's like maybe you go 3-2 on the road games and 1-2 on those games at home against Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina. Like, I think that any sort of combination, it feels like the Aggies are going to find a way to win 8 football games. That's what I'm getting at is I just don't. This schedule is tougher than last year's. There's no debate to it. There's no question. That's just the reality. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, I still think that this team's good enough to win 8 football games. This is a good football team. I think Texas A&M, I've seen some folks overhyping them and some folks overhating them. And I think that this team's more in the middle. I don't see them going worse than 8-4. I'm not right now buying the 10-2 playoff appearance. I'm not doing it. I'm not buying it. I'm not. And I hate to say that. I know Aggie fans don't want to hear that. But I also really do think that this team is going to win 8 games. Now, I'll tell you this. No one's going to sit here. Like, if Texas A&M goes 8-4, I'm not going to sit here. Yeah, we win 8-4. I've talked about it. I mean, expectations at some point need to start going up. They're just going to have to start going up. And we've talked about this, and you've had these elite teams, you've had these elite rosters, and you find ways to go, 8-4, 7-5. And this is, you have good enough rosters that you should be winning national championships, not winning 8 football games. So I guess what I'm saying talking is, I'm trying to convince y'all that we're going to win 8 football games, but at the end of the day, that's not what we should be hoping for. Let's say I were to go on over to see our friends at FanDuel and put $8 on put $20 on the Aggies to win 8 football games, or the over on 7.5. I'm not going to be happy about that if it happens. I'd be happy about winning my bet over on FanDuel, but I just don't like the thought of that being the goal. It shouldn't be the goal. I feel like 8.5 would be a realistic, would be a line that makes more sense. And I think a lot of folks would take the under there. I think that it's probably, and I get with the betting standpoint, a lot of people don't like taking unders, and that's why people, they probably set at 7.5. But I would have set it at 8.5, knowing people don't like to take unders, and you'd see a lot of people take that over. But I guess my point is, so I think this is 2 conversations wrapped into one. I'm trying to sit here and convince y'all that the Aggies are not going to go 7-5, that they're going to go 8-4, which is my prediction. I've said that. I'm trying to convince y'all of that, but then also it's kind of turned into the secondary conversation of that's not good enough. You know what I mean? I don't think it's good enough. And I've seen some folks in the comments here saying things, like, well, I mean, yeah, but 8 wins is a good thing. And how? I can't. I am not happy with the mediocrity with this roster. 7-5, 8-4, whoop-de-doo. We'll play in a bowl game. Who gives a crap? This team has the talent to be special, and I've talked about that. So, yes, I think that the 7.5 win total, I believe you take the over on that. I think that the Aggies, worst-case scenario, go 8-4. I think that's the worst-case scenario. I'm at a point, which I hate to say, but I kind of feel like the best-case scenario is 9-3, partially because you're playing a tough schedule, partially because I have some concerns with different position groups. But I think I feel like, obviously the ceiling is higher than 9-3, but I feel like 9-3 and 8-4 are the 2 most realistic outcomes. I just don't see this team winning 7 football games. I mean, it would take injuries or just flat out this team just not being as good as we think they are. It would take one of those 2 things. It would take one of those 2 things for this team to not at least win 8 football games. So I am really a believer that they go 8-4, which once again, this will be a conversation for another day. I think this has kind of bloomed into something in my head of like, that's not good enough. So we'll talk about it. But yes, I think right now the Aggies are hitting the over. If y'all were betting over at FanDuel, would you take the over or the under on that 7.5 win total? Let me know in the YouTube comments. I want to talk about this offensive line. Heard some positives, heard some negatives. We'll talk about it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to talk about our friends over at Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversations, seats, to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. Anything you want furniture-wise, Wayfair's got it. They've got it at the best prices. You got to go check them out. It's where I buy all my furniture, and I believe y'all should do the same. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. To get outside with Wayfair, head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. So the offensive line has been a talking point of late for the offseason of Texas A&M. And I mean, when you pull up the roster for this team and you take a gander at you sit back and you take a look at the offensive line position, I mean, I feel good about it. Now, the concerns that I've heard from people that have concerns about this offensive line, they're all depth related. I mean, if you look at this right now, this offensive line, and I'll tell you, I really like Armaj Reed Adams is obviously a stud. I think Mark Naboo is a really, really good player. I think that you've got an offensive line that is Chase Basantis is going to be awesome. I think that Ashton Funk has a lot of upside. Jonte Newman's got a lot of upside. We know who Ruben Foth3 is. Demetrius Crownover, Lamont Rogers, the freshman. I'm telling y'all, this offensive line has the upside to be special. I think that you are going to see a great season from this offensive line. Now, I think Kalanui Foyu, the center, is going to have a good year coming over, year two here. He was really clutch for us after what happened with Bryce Foster leaving, and he was pretty good last year. Chase Basantis, I think, has a big season in front of him. So does Ruben Foth3. So does Demetrius Crownover. I just think this offensive line, Armaj Reed Adams, I think is going to be one of the best offensive linemen in the nation this year. And then, I mean, everybody, Blake Ivy's got a lot of upside. I mean, you've just got so many young offensive linemen, and the concerns that I've heard have to do with depth. But I mean, some of these names here, I get they're young. I get that Ivy's young. I get that. I understand that some guys like Lamont Rogers is young. Jonte Newman is young. I understand where it was going. Ashton Funk is still young. I get what everyone's saying. It's a young offensive line, but these are like high 5-star players that I believe can come in and help your football team if you need it. And this offensive line last year. Now, I mean, heading into last year, we talked about it. There were the concerns with the offensive line heading into last season. We all know that. I was worried about it. Y'all were worried about it. We were all worried about it. And then I think you end up having a top 8 offensive line in the SEC, I'd say. My goal for this year is top 8 to turn into top 5, potentially top 3, which I do think is very, very realistic. I like our starters. I do. I think our starters are really good. It's offensive line. You're going to have injuries. They happen all the time. You are going to have players go down. You're going to have different things happen with your offensive line. But that's where there's the concerns that I don't share. People are concerned about the depth. And I think that these young players, let's say realistically, maybe you have an injury to and you need 1 or 2 young guys to step up. I just think that you're going to get that. I think that these guys, if called upon, they're going to step up. And that is why I feel pretty solid about this offensive line heading into the season. And so I'm a believer that they are going to take that step to the next level. That has been the concern. Some folks saying, well, they overexceeded expectations last year, but are they going to do that this season? And once again, personally, I do think that they're going to find a way to do that. So is it going? It's something that we have to monitor. I'll tell you that, because I look at this offensive line and I say to myself, I just don't know if, I mean, I think we all believe that Trey Zune is going to have a really, really special season. I mean, I still believe that he's going to be an NFL player. I mean, you've got him and Armaj Adams. I think you've got two all-SEC offensive linemen. And then I like Basantis. I like Crownover. I like all of these guys. I think your offensive line is going to be really good. And what I don't understand is, anyone – you're allowed to be concerned about Marcel Reed from the spring game, and I talked about that, and I talked about my concerns. But the folks that are upset about the offensive line, like, your units weren't together. You had some people on this team, none of that. This offensive line has played a lot of snaps together. This offensive line likes and understands one another. And, I mean, I just think that is going to be crucial. I don't get where the spring game has led to folks saying, man, I don't know about this offensive line. I just don't think it's going to be as good as we thought it was going to be. I'm not taking that away from the spring game at all. I think that it's going to be a special unit. I really, really do. I think that it's going to be a unit that constantly exceeds expectations this year. I think that they're going to be better than we anticipate them being. I've seen a lot of folks are taking the more negative approach, and I'm taking the more positive approach. I've seen that, and I just think that it's going to be a incredibly special season for this offensive line. I'm buying it. So I'm taking the other direction from folks that have been saying all that stuff about this offensive line. So we will see what happens there, but I just think that this unit is going to exceed expectations. So like I said, I just think this is a unit that has the opportunity to exceed expectations, but some people seem to be going the other way with it, like they're going to not be as good as last year. I think it'd be better than last year. So and as y'all know, I've been more negative than I have over the last 2 years doing this. I've been more negative the last 6 months, or last 3 months than I normally am. But this offensive line, I feel pretty darn confident in. I want to talk about the baseball team. They got a series coming up against Georgia, and I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter, and don't even try. I'll tell you why on today's third segment right here on Locked On Aggies. So the baseball team has a series coming up against the Georgia Bulldogs. And after getting swept by Missouri, after getting swept by Missouri, this series doesn't matter, okay? Let's be realistic. They are not going to win 3. They're not going to. I think that they would have. I think there's a chance even a sweep of Georgia might not get them in. And I know that's bold, but the reason I say that is because that getting swept by Missouri at home hurt the RPI so much that I realistically do think that there is a chance that they do not get in because of it. So taking a gander at the future, of course, there are these automatic bids. You get an automatic bid if you win the SEC tournament. I don't know SEC, let's see, baseball tournament bracket. I don't know. Let's see. It starts on Tuesday. I don't know what day I mean, it looks to me like the Aggies would be playing on, they would be playing on Tuesday. So what I'm saying is, knowing that there is no shot that you're going to sweep Georgia at Georgia, it's just not happening, okay? It's just not happening. I wouldn't throw your starters. Now, I don't know. I mean, this game's coming up today here in a few hours. So let's see. Have they put up a let's see if they've put out a no, they haven't put out they haven't put out a lineup yet. I'm just telling y'all, and I'm serious about this, and there's a lot of people, you will have an advantage if you go to the SEC tournament with Prager and Lampkin and all of these guys ready to roll. I wouldn't throw them. I'm serious. I wouldn't throw them. And I know that's bold, and people are probably going to think I'm crazy. Your first game is going to be on Tuesday. If you could find a way to throw those guys, if you could throw Prager on Tuesday and then throw on Wednesday, I think it's going to give you a better chance to get deep into that tournament, and then you roll back to your bullpen. I would, and they're not going to do this. I bet you, and I haven't heard yet, I bet you Prager pitches today. But I think it's a poor decision because I think you have a better chance of saving your good pitchers, rolling them out of the SEC tournament. Think about it. You've got a week at everyone else. That is playing Tuesday or Wednesday. They're not going to have their starters. They're going to be throwing their midweek guys, right? That's the reality. They're going to be throwing their midweek guys. And if you're throwing your aces, you might be able to get deep into the weekend. Now, of course, then you're going to be playing against the team's aces while you have your kind of your midweek guys going, but at least you're there. At least you have a chance. We're asking for a chance here. So I think it's a bold statement. I think that people are going to say I'm crazy, and that is more than okay. But I'm telling y'all, I would hold the starting pitchers. Yes, throw your obviously throw your lineup out there. I'm not asking you to bench your lineup. That does no good. You might as well throw them out there and still see what the heck happens. You never know. I mean, do I think we have a shot in the world at sweeping this team? No. Has crazier things happened? Yes. So we'll see what happens there. But that's what I would do, ladies and gentlemen. I would throw out my midweek guys and say, hey, let's save Prager and these guys for the SEC tournament, because that automatic bid, I really do feel like, is our only shot of making the postseason. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious, but I bet you they throw Prager today, and I think that would be a poor decision. We'll talk about this. Whatever happens with this game today, we'll talk about it tomorrow, and then we'll talk about the future for the baseball team. But yes, it's looking quite grim, but there are chances to make the postseason. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that like button on YouTube. Or if you're listening on the podcast platform, leave a 5-star review. All of that helps me out and helps the show out a ton. Hope everyone has a great rest of their Thursday. Enjoy the baseball game today, and we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.